Assuming this started. Welcome everyone. As we come into the Zoom room, we're going to give it about 30 seconds to a minute just to make sure that everyone can get in and get settled. So we'll start in about 30 seconds to a minute. All right, we will go ahead and get started. And as more people trickle in, they will trickle in. I want to say welcome to everyone. My name is Luke Hawes, and I serve as the Director of New Student and Family Programs here at Loyola. And I want to give a special welcome to our guests here who are attending our first Greyhound Guide for Families webinar series. So we're really, really excited to get it started this semester. I wanted to also thank the family members who filled out the survey last semester because you all gave us great answers to help shape and curate the content that we are giving you this semester. So we hope that you were able to gain some insights, some knowledge about Loyola and the support and resources that we are offering to your students. Because like I say, always at any type of orientation or onboarding process, I always say that our students are important, but our family members we also see as a valuable partner in your student success. So we hope that today and then all the other webinars that we host this semester, you're able to feel more connected to the Loyola community. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague Jason, who is going to lead us through this webinar on wellness. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you so much, Luke, and good evening, everyone. We are grateful to be able to spend a little bit of time with you, our important partners in student wellness at Loyola as family members. Um, my name is Jason Parkover, and I have the pleasure of serving the community as the Associate Vice President for Student Wellbeing. So I work very closely with all the various offices that you see listed on the slide on your screen and oversee some campus-wide health initiatives. But perhaps my qualification to be here this evening that is most important to you all is the fact that I am the parent of three current college students, and I've learned so much about this journey from them over the past 4 or 5 years. And as have my amazing colleagues who are spending time with us this evening. I'm very grateful for the directors of various departments related to student health and well-being to have given their time to be with us. Let me set a little bit of context before each of my colleagues introduces themselves and it describes more about the work that their departments do. When and we'll save some time for Q&A at the end of our time together. So feel free to start putting those into the question and answer feature that you have available to you on Zoom. What do we mean by student wellness at Loyola? Um, we're talking about the whole student, not just physical health or emotional health. It includes those two aspects, of course, but also social health, social connection, spiritual well-being, learning about financial well-being, and so on. And we know that students, really any of us, don't experience these areas of well-being separately. That generally, when one of those areas is suffering a little bit, it can impact the other areas of our well-being. And we know that research is very clear that paying attention to our well-being, promoting wellness, leads to significantly higher success as students, whether that's retention, grades, experiences of happiness and joy. And that, again, is really true across the lifespan, but it's particularly important, an important foundation for doing well as a student academically and career-wise. The work at Loyola and one of the things that's kept me at Loyola for more than 2 decades now is really important. Loyola has always emphasized and provided resources and support for this well-being work that we do. I think in large part because it's part of our mission as a Jesuit values-based institution. We really focus not only on response when someone's in need, but also on prevention. We do a lot of work starting from pre-orientation right on through graduation, trying to work with our students, learning about healthy habits and skills for well-being before challenges arrive. And of course, when challenges do arise, as they will, we are really proud of our ability to respond quickly and compassionately when support is needed. And one of the things that is really important for you to know is that our offices are very collaborative. No one single office supports students alone. All of our departments, we have meetings together. We're on the phone with each other. We consult. We connect our students with each other. We really work closely to make sure that students are getting the support that they need to be successful, to thrive, and so forth. And the folks that you'll meet tonight are just a handful of the support network that we get to work with every day. I want to say one or two more contextual things before I turn it over to my colleagues. And one is to acknowledge and affirm that you all, as families, as loved ones of our students, play an incredibly important role in their well-being. Um, um, Even after students arrive on campus. I think, and I've learned this both as a professional and as a parent, one of the biggest shifts that we have to adjust to is moving from being the primary problem solver to more of being a supportive coach of our kids, our young adults as they navigate the college years. And uh, the reason for that is a reason for that is it's really important to us, and I know to you all as well, that our students develop agency over their time at Loyola. We want them to not only be successful here, but out in the world after they graduate. We want them to be able to advocate for themselves. We want them to be able to problem solve. We want them to be able to have the self-efficacy and confidence to know that when they're struggling, they can think through, with support, of course, how to get their needs met. And college is a wonderful time to start making that transition. They seem to do the best when we as parents focus on really listening to them, validating, and encouraging them to connect with resources and ask them what they think the next steps would be before we rush in as parents to say you need to do A, B, C, and D, or I will do it for you. And I hope that that makes a lot of sense. And I want to be clear, despite the fact that our students are moving towards greater levels of independence, you continue to be incredibly important in their lives and will be post graduation as well. One of the questions we get a lot is how would I know that I should reach out to someone or have my students reach out to someone to get support? And on the slide that you currently see, we have some recommendations about that. Anytime you see significant changes in behavior or mood or routines that's just not like them and it lasts more than, a day or two, that might be a flag. Um, uh, when you see your student withdrawing, they're in contact less with you or with family members, with friends, that might be a sign. Any significant changes to sleeping or eating, either more or less, might be a sign that they're struggling with physical health, emotional health, spiritual health. If you notice their grades, their academics starting to suffer, that can be one of the earlier signs. And finally, of course, any physical symptoms that concern you. Certainly, we'd want you to advise your students to reach out. And while teaching them that help seeking really is one of the strongest skills that you want them to develop with the scaffolding that you provide. Okay. I think I'm going to leave it at that for now. Hopefully, that's a good start to our conversation together. I'll come back closer to the end after you have a chance to meet some of my amazing colleagues who I'm super grateful for. And with that, I am going to turn things over to our director of the Counseling Center, Ms. Jen Stevens. Jen, it's all yours.
Thank you, Jason, and thanks everyone for being here this evening. I'm excited to share a little bit about the Counseling Center, which is just one of the components and resources that Loyola offers for wellness. So the Counseling Center is a resource that's available on campus for all students. Students are able to come in for a variety of different services. That includes kind of individual counseling, which is what you might typically think about as one-on-one therapy, as well as a really comprehensive group program where every semester we offer a different variety of groups based off of what we're seeing in terms of needs of students. And it's a really amazing opportunity for students to connect not only with counselors that are facilitating the group, but with other students that might have similar experiences and to provide support and connection through their healing journey. We also offer crisis support, and so we're aware that there's sometimes emergencies that happen that students aren't able to wait for their scheduled appointment, and so it's very important that we offer every day, Monday through Friday, an emergency counselor. So if students are experiencing a crisis, they can come into the counseling center and get support urgently. In addition to having some after hours and weekend support as well, which I'll share about in a little bit, that students can access and also families can access as well if you have concerns about students after hours and on the weekend. And we also offer referral support. And so when students are needing something beyond the care that we offer in the counseling center, we have a network of curated providers in the community, and we're really able to work with students to identify providers that can best meet those needs in thinking about insurance, whether it's in person, on Zoom, the particular style they're looking for in a therapist. So we can really provide a list that connects that student with ongoing care beyond their time working with us in the counseling center. There's multiple ways that students can get in touch with us. And one thing that I'll note is that the Counseling Center is a service that students do need to make an appointment for themselves. And so when we talk a little bit about encouraging students to think about their next step or accessing resources, this is an opportunity really for students to take those first steps kind of on their own with some encouragement. And so they can do that either by going to our website and accessing our online scheduling, which I would say is the probably most popular way that students get scheduled with us. But we do always encourage if students don't see a time that works for them, that they give us a call in the counseling center, or they can stop by the front desk, and we're happy to schedule in those ways as well. We ultimately can, make some adjustments to the online scheduling appointments that they can't see on their end. So if there's something they're needing sooner or a time that just doesn't work with their schedule, we're happy to find something that we can help make available for them. The Counseling Center offers our individual services through what we consider more of a brief individual therapy model. So we're a highly utilized resource on campus. We see many, many students, and in order to provide kind of access to care without having a wait list or that sort of thing. We do work with students for about a semester-ish, but that is flexible based off of the student's needs. There's not a session limit, but they'll kind of work with their counselor to determine kind of what they're looking for, their goals, and then we'll help move towards like the best next step. Kind of as they start with us, we start those conversations from the beginning of our work together. And there are times when students have had an ongoing history of therapy or mental health struggles since prior to college, or the concerns that they're having necessitate something that's a little bit beyond what we offer in the counseling center. And that's when we really work towards those referrals and providing ongoing support in those ways. But that's a conversation that we continue over multiple appointments, and we really work with students from the time they're in our office until they reach those next steps with a new provider, if that's the direction that they go in. And even if students are accessing services with an off-campus provider, they're still welcome to come in for emergency services, to do groups, to do one-time kind of problem-solving sessions. So there's really a lot of opportunities for students to continue to remain connected to the counseling center if that's something that supports their needs as well. A particular kind of piece, about the counseling center that's important to note is that our services are confidential. So we are licensed mental health clinicians providing therapeutic services. And so when a student comes in, we're not able to share or confirm if they've received services in our office without their permission. And so while we welcome calls from families, if you have questions or concerns, you're wondering how to connect your student, we're not able to let you know if they have come in or not, but we can certainly talk with recommendations and help you think through those next steps. And we're also not able to share that information with other partners on campus without the student's permission. So it is a really important, private, confidential resource that students can access. And when we connect students, as Jason mentioned, we work very collaboratively with the other resources on campus. We do ask students for a release of information, so then we're able to help kind of provide nice continuity of care for students across campus when they provide that permission. In the event of an emergency, we are able to reach out for support if we think the student is experiencing an imminent risk to harm for themselves or others. We are able to move forward contacting parents or emergency supports in those moments. So just a few tips for families to leave you with tonight from the Counseling Center. It's really important to think about just kind of normalizing seeking help. And so not waiting for there to be a moment of crisis to happen to say like, oh, do you know about the Counseling Center? You should go there. Just make it a part of the conversations that you're having when you're talking through how are things going on campus? What are you getting connected with? Describing that, there's moments that students are experiencing some of those pieces that Jason mentioned around, disruptions in sleep or mood or the stress that they experience day to day has become unmanageable, that we want them to know that seeking services, coming into the counseling center is something that you support. And so there's not a question of, oh, I don't know if my parents would want me to do this. You want to kind of preemptively have those conversations. When you have those conversations, please encourage the support, allow students to make decisions about seeking care, usually results in better outcomes for them. They're more willing to actually follow up with those recommendations. And then they also ultimately tend to have a better outcome in care if they feel like they're not being kind of pushed into something. It feels like something they have some agency around. And again, if there's an urgent situation, if there's an imminent concern for safety, the best option is always to call our public safety office on campus, and they can access supports after hours and during the day. That way, a student can be kind of responded to urgently if that's a challenge. If during the day you have some concerns that your student might be experiencing some really significant mental health challenges Monday through Friday, you're welcome to call the Counseling Center office and you can speak with our emergency counselor and we can help talk about options and next steps, as well as reaching out on our website. You can find our after hours crisis line, which is 410-617-5530 that you can access as well and can connect with supports on campus as well as counseling support. And if there's additional questions, we'll be happy to get to those at the end, or you're welcome to reach out to the Counseling Center directly. And I will now pass it over to Marcia in Disability and Accessibility Services.
Thanks, Jen. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad to be here tonight to talk about disability support services. I'm sorry, disability and access services at Loyola. I'm going to start off by telling you who is eligible for accommodations and supports through DAS, which is the acronym for our office. You have to have a disability in order to receive services from our office. And so the definition of a disability is a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits a major life activity. So that's a legal definition, a little wordy. What it means is, someone with a learning disability, ADHD, physical impairment, sensory impairment, hearing loss, vision impairment, and mental health difficulties falls into the categories as well. And a major life activity, what that boils down is to someone having difficulty maybe with learning, concentrating, things you need to do to be a good student. But is also going on, you're living at Loyola. So we want you to think about sleeping, eating. If you're having any difficulties with that at Loyola, you might be eligible for accommodations at Loyola. And the type of accommodations, they vary from student to student. Our process is very individualized, and students come to us. A lot of times they've had supports and accommodations in high school, and they know exactly what they need: extra time for tests, note takers, a reduced distraction environment. But sometimes what's new to students is that they're living at Loyola and they haven't had to deal with accommodations unless maybe they went to a boarding school. But think about housing accommodations. And when I say that, you're something like an accessible bathroom for someone who has a physical impairment, or maybe audio visual fire alarms for someone who has hearing impairment. So think about the housing component too, if your student might need something along those lines. And then we also have accommodations that might have to do with meal plans. Sometimes people with diabetes or severe food allergies might need a modification to the meal plan. And all right, so moving on, one thing that's really important, this is different than high school, is that it's a student-driven process. And what that means is that the students need to come to us. We're the office on campus that a student comes to if they're seeking an accommodation. We take their information, their documentation, and store it confidentially. But they must come to us. It's quite different than high school, where they are charged with finding students. Okay, briefly, how accommodations work. There's an interactive process, so students come to our office. They might say, hey, I'm having trouble concentrating in class, and we'll have a discussion. And then we explain to them, this is how you register with DAS. So the interaction is back and forth. It's a two-way street. Then, they might fill out our online application, provide us documentation. The documentation, we have guidelines for documentation. If the documentation doesn't suffice, doesn't meet our guidelines, we'll work with the student. We'll go back to them and say, hey, we need additional information. Can I call your provider? So again, it's a back and forth process. It does require documentation. And documentation is usually from a medical provider, but it also could be from an education, maybe a 504 plan or IEP, if people have heard those words before, from high school. And then communication with faculty is the next step. So when we approve a student for accommodations, we will notify faculty and let them know that the student's in their class and they are registered with DAS and they're approved for these accommodations, and explain to them exactly what it is. We don't disclose their disability. We will just tell them what accommodations need to be provided, and we help them along the way as well. Okay, so tips for families. One thing I encourage is if you or your students suspect that they need accommodations, please have them register with us as soon as possible, and we will help them. And the earlier, the better, because nothing's retroactive. Meaning, if there could have been an accommodation that would help your student do better in a class, but they didn't have it, we don't go back in time. We cannot go back in time and fix it. So earlier is better. Self-advocacy, encourage your student to be the one to come to us and tell us, exactly what their needs are, if they're having any difficulties getting their accommodations. We're happy to talk to you, but we're always going to go back and loop in the students. So please encourage your students to talk to us. And reinforce independence. I think Jason mentioned that before pretty nicely. This is all a step towards helping your student become, responsible, advocating adults, and independent with that process. So encourage them to be the ones to talk to their faculty, to talk to us, to reach out to the supports. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to, here we go, Julie Sands from the Health Center.
Thanks, Marcia. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. My name is Julie Sands. I am the Director of Student Health Center at Loyola. I've been there for about 5.5 years now. We are our on-campus medical care for students here at Loyola. We basically act like a doctor's office on campus. We take appointments, and when your student might not feel well or might need to see someone, they can call our office and make an appointment, and we can see them. We are run by nurse practitioners. We do have one physician who's part-time with us, and then we have a registered nurse, medical assistants, and a program specialist to help us run some of the fun health promotional type programs that we do. We do preventative care and screenings as well. A lot of times, if a student might be going abroad, they might need a physical done ahead of time or some paperwork completed regarding that, so we can help with those things. Some of the preventative care that we do screenings for things like STIs, women's wellness exams, and we can even help with lab work that your physicians at home might have ordered. We don't have a full lab, so we can't do everything, but if a doctor at home ordered some simple blood testing to be done, a lot of times we can help with that as well. The student just needs to come in to see us first. We do a lot of referrals and off-campus support for our students, particularly in the areas of things like orthopedics. We don't have an X-ray capability in our office, so we will refer students off to either urgent care, or we have a great orthopedic practice not far from campus that can take walk-ins some days, which is a great resource for us and our students. Yeah, we can go to the next one. Thank you. So when students should use the Student Health Center. Right now is a very busy season, as you can imagine, in the Student Health Center. Now that we have gotten back to school from all of the fun of the holidays, students are bringing back lots of different things with them, including the flu. So illness is definitely prevalent right now. But we have the great ways of testing for things like COVID and flu, strep throat, right in our office so that we can treat our students and make sure that they're back in class soon. Injuries, we can help with most injuries that wouldn't require an x-ray. So if a student got a cut that didn't need stitches, they fell and bumped their knee or something like that, we're able to see students. We also have some crutches that they can rent if they were to hurt themselves by like spraining their ankle, things like that. We do help with ongoing health concerns. So, particularly with students with chronic health problems, if there is a specialist that your child might see back in their home state who feels like it would be a good plan for them to get together with us and kind of have that care be extended to the time that they're at school, we can set up a meeting with that doctor, whether that be online or over the phone, to get health records and kind of talk about the plan for the student. And we welcome those types of conversations because it helps us to better understand how we can support your student through their time at Loyola. Preventative visits I really talked about. So I'll just say real quickly that we do send some labs off from our health center. The one thing that we can do is the one thing that we do a lot of is things like throat cultures. We'll send them off if a strep throat test came back negative and we still want to test. So preventative care with things like testing, STI testing, and blood testing for certain things we can help with as well. Just some tips for you as families. Really encourage that routine care at home for your students. So when they're home for the winter break and the summer breaks, make sure they're seeing their primary care doctors, dermatologists, any other specialists that they might need to see, psychiatry. Figure out a way for them to make sure that they get the medications that they need, that they might take currently and may need to get refills while they're at school. We do have a pharmacy that is able to deliver prescriptions to our students. They deliver them to the health center for a small fee. But we assist with that. We take them in and we'll hold them until the student comes to pick them up with proper ID. So that's a really great thing. But making sure that that routine care starts at home is really a benefit. A lot of times parents, might feel, oh my gosh, my child is sick and they're so far away, and I really need to talk to the person who's caring for them. And as all of us in our office are moms of children from ages about 5 to grandchildren the age of 1. So we've got our fair share of moms in our office. We know certainly how it can feel to have a sick child. And we definitely are welcome to talk to families about what's going on with their student as long as the student gives us permission. We don't have a blanket policy of parents can call and say that every time their student comes in, we contact them. Uh, that's just not how the HIPAA laws work within student health services. So if a student is very sick, a lot of times we'll just call them directly from the room with the student and say, this is what's going on. This is what we feel needs to happen, particularly if we need to send them to like an urgent care or the ER. We typically don't make those decisions without talking to the parent first, if the child is extremely sick. If it's something that we just simply can't do in our office, we certainly will refer them to other places that's needed. Our office does not take health insurance. So we are a fee for service office. That being said, the cost to have things done in our office is pretty similar to a copay. Most visits, I always use the example of strep throat. They might have a strep test done, and if it's positive, they get an antibiotic. If they're able to take an antibiotic and that we have in the office. If not, we can call a pharmacy and have them bring that to us. But typically, that type of appointment could cost anywhere from $20 to $30 complete with medication. So while we don't take insurance, we also are not billing exorbitant amounts of money. We're basically covering the costs of our supplies that we can reorder for the next patient. We do take anything from cash, credit card. I don't think we really take checks anymore. I don't think our students even know what they are anymore. Though I wrote a check earlier this week. And we do Apple Pay, and the students can also go on and pay their bills for student health on the bridge, and they can call our office to get information on how to do that. A lot of what we do in our center regarding health promotion really talks to students about how to take care of themselves while at college. This is their first time away from their families and their friends of home, home cooked meals and things like that, and they don't have anybody telling them it's time to go to bed. So we really talk to them about trying to promote rest, hydration, nutrition, um, as well as making sure that they're getting up at a decent time every day. It's not so much just going to sleep, but it's also having good sleep hygiene. So we talk to students about health promotion, and taking care of themselves, not only when they're sick, but particularly when they're sick. I think that's it for me. I think I'm going to pass it to Jason Parkover, who is filling in tonight for recreation and wellness.
Thank you so much, Julie. I appreciate it. Hi again, everyone. I'm pinch hitting for our colleague Mike Castaneda, the director of RecWell. He had a big family event that was planned quite a while ago, but he sends his best to you all. So I'm speaking a little bit about recreation and wellness on his behalf, and um, used to be many years ago, the department was just called Department of Recreation. And the scope of their work is really much more than just working out. And so the name change happened to really represent that their work is about helping students build sustainable habits that support their overall lifelong well-being. And there are a number of different types of ways that folks can do that through RecWell and other offices on campus, whether it's fitness classes or recreation spaces. We have a very active intramural program and club sports program. I was up at the fitness center just before this webinar, and they were starting indoor soccer, and there were a bunch of different teams there. It's a bustling building. If you haven't had a chance to check out the fitness center during a visit to Loyola, please do. The department also offers a number of different types of wellness workshops and education. And really, in a lot of ways, what RecWell's providing is a community. They provide spaces to connect, meeting friends, finding routine, decompressing from academic pressure. RecWell is a big part of our students' experience. And we see their work as really partnering, a key partner in the work of mental health, physical health, academic health. Uh, the experiences through RecWell really do, and we all know that exercise and movement have lots and lots of wonderful benefits for us, managing stress being one of those, primary benefits. Um, our department really views wellness from a preventative lens, and uh, you know we help students to develop small and consistent habits, regular movement, education on sleep and eating routines, really do significantly reduce stress before it becomes overwhelming. Sleep, and I know this as a parent, is often one of the first things that students sacrifice when they get busy, but it's also one of the biggest predictors of academic success and emotional well-being. We've always known that sleep is important, but we're learning more and more. Research is really advanced that it's a critical part of our well-being. So we're educating students on that and helping them to develop healthy lifelong habits. And A sense of community, a sense of belonging also matters deeply. Students who feel connected to peers, to teams, organizations, are more likely to thrive, are more likely to have academic success, and are more likely to reach out for support early when they need it. And we tell them these habits don't have to be perfect. The goal is consistency and slowly building on these types of daily habits. In terms of tips for families, um, really, you're super helpful in helping our students develop that sense of balance in their life, not just productivity. We want them to be successful. We want them to do well in school, but reminding them that balance is important. Asking questions like, how are you taking care of yourself this week? What are you doing these days to recharge? Really goes a long way with them. Checking in on those routines, again, especially sleep and meals and movement. Are you getting, some steps in? If, are you headed up to the fact? Just checking in. Avoid monitoring or policing those habits, but every once in a while, just check in and ask how they're managing those things. It's also critically important to normalize rest. Students often feel pressure to be busy all the time, and hearing that rest is allowed and healthy and important can be really powerful, especially on these types of habits when families are modeling that type of balance and self-care themselves. Students really tend to take those messages to heart. So thanks for letting me pinch hit for Mike. I'll be back again to wrap us up in a little bit. But first, please allow me to introduce you to the director of the Macaulay's Women's Center, Melissa Lees.
Good evening, y'all. As Jason said, I'm Melissa Lees. I'm the director of the Macaulay Women's Center, and I'm also have the privilege of being the confidential advocate at Loyola for students who experience any kind of relationship violence, sexual harm. And I've had the privilege to be at Loyola for 10 years now. So the Macaulay Women's Center is for all students. I also have the opportunity to meet all students when they come in June and then again in August. And I'm very well aware of our name, but we are for all students. Everyone is welcome. So we do a lot of education and prevention programs. In our office, we are big on building connection and sense of belonging for students, and we do that in a lot of different ways. We just piloted a Macaulay Connects program where students can be partnered with an upperclassman to just build connections and go to events. Students tell us that one of the most difficult things for them is to walk into an event, a sporting event, a lecture, an event on campus by themselves. So we are trying to help build connections. We also do a lot of advocacy and support. Your student may find themselves in an unhealthy relationship. They may have a lived experience from high school that they're bringing to college with them. And the Macaulay Women's Center, in partnership with my other colleagues from the Counseling Center and Student Health Services, are here to support students as they navigate their healing journey. We know this can be a really difficult time transitioning to college. And if you add on to that a potential unhealthy relationship or struggling with how to navigate ending a relationship, knowing that students may be coming to college from in a relationship with someone from high school and it's not working and just need help navigating that, we are here to help that. We also do gender-based programs and services. So all students at Loyola participate in Step Up Bystander Intervention training, and it is to give students the tools to be active and engaged bystanders at Loyola. So this is not just when it comes to gender-based violence that they may see or someone may tell them about, but we also talk about how do you be an active, engaged bystander if you see someone who maybe has overconsumed alcohol, who is under the influence of drugs. How do you be an active and engaged bystander if you witness any kind of bias? And we work very closely with all of our partners across campus to make sure that students know they are supported at Loyola. So, what does support and advocacy really look like? So, as I shared, I am the confidential advocate. So, that means students can come and talk with me about what is going on in their relationships. And I'm not going to share that with anyone, similar to what Jen shared about the counseling center. Students may want to talk with their families, and I am happy to support them doing that. And I have done that in the past where we have a conversation all together. Um, I am a big advocate of connecting students with other resources. No student should operate in a silo, so I work very closely with my colleagues who are here today. I am here to support students during difficult situations, navigating difficult situations, navigating difficult relationships. And sometimes that's relationships with roommates as well. Sometimes students need a space to come to and talk things through. And then, as I shared, not only do I connect students, try and help connect students to campus and community resources, I have interns at the Macaulay Women's Center, and we also have an ambassador program that is open to all students. And we actually really love when first year students and transfer students apply to be ambassadors and get connected with our office and center from day one so that they can help create programs. They can help us create what are those prevention and education programs look like at Loyola. So tips for you as family members, please talk about healthy relationships. Please talk with your students about self-worth. Please talk with your students about what they deserve from a partner. I think that's really, really important. Believe and support your student if they come to you and share that something has happened to them. I don't want to scare anyone. I don't think that more situations are happening at Loyola than any other institution at all. But if your student should come and share something with you, please believe them and support them. And if you are unsure what to do, the counseling center's the counseling center's website, the Women's Center's website has lots of tips and tools for how to support someone. And then encourage early outreach. Like my colleagues have said, the earlier a student reaches out for help, the more likely they are to get connected to lots of resources on campus. So thank you all and welcome to Loyola. Now I'll turn it back to Jason.
Thank you so much, Melissa, and to the whole team. Thank you, thank you. I'll just share a few closing thoughts before we shift into the Q&A. One of the hardest balances for families is knowing how to help without taking over. And I think a helpful way to think of this is asking oneself, am I fixing this or am I coaching? And coaching sounds more like, what have you tried so far? Who on campus might be helpful? What support do you think you need? Fixing, on the other hand, often unintentionally sends the message that the student can't handle things on their own. And as a few of us have shared, our goal is to help students build confidence in navigating challenges because that skill will matter long after graduation. One of Loyola's strengths really is how closely our offices collaborate. There's communication and coordination happening behind the scenes. So when in doubt, if you are reaching out, and by the way, we don't want the message to be your student needs to do it completely on their own without any outreach on your behalf. Just encourage them to take steps on their own. But if we get to the point where, hey, you are concerned they're not taking steps, please do not hesitate to reach out. And because all of our offices collaborate, reach out to any of us. You don't have to remember this office is for that, this office is for that, etc. Reach out to one of us and we will work with you to figure out how we can connect and provide the services that support that your student is most needing. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I think in addition, some key takeaways. Uh, you're not alone in supporting your student. That's something we really want you to remember. We want you to remember that struggling at times is a normal part of life. It's a normal part of being a college student, and that help seeking in those moments is a strength, and that reaching out for help and support early is always preferable, right? It tends to lead to better outcomes. It prevents distress or pain from building, and so the earlier folks connect, the better outcomes we see in terms of academics, emotional, physical health. Okay. Um, so I think with that, um, I'm going to turn it back over to Luke, who got us started, and he'll navigate the Q&A and a couple of other things that he would like you all to be aware of.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason, and thank you to all our panelists. If you do have a question, you can go ahead and put it in the chat box, the Q&A box. Currently, there are none, but I will give it about 30 seconds in case you want to type one now, if you have any questions for any of our panelists. And as if you are typing, if you're going to go over some announcements. First, obviously, as I said in the beginning, this was our first webinar of the spring semester. Our next ones, and actually we have two on the day of next month. It is February 11th. We have one during the lunch hour. So we know that sometimes this 7 to 8 time might not work for you. So maybe you can hop out during your lunch hour at work or wherever you may be. So we have one from noon to 1 with our financial aid office on February 11th. And then our one from 7 to 8 is our Office of Residence Life and Housing. You can get all the information and register for those on the Loyola Family Connection portal, which is where you registered for this one. If you can't find it or having trouble accessing it, just feel free to shoot our office an email and we will get you registered. And I do not see any questions, so I will go ahead and just wrap us up. First, I just want to thank our panelists for coming and sharing their expertise and their knowledge, and the great work that their offices are doing to support our students' wellness here at Loyola. I want to thank our guests for showing up to our very first webinar. I appreciate you all, and hope that you all learned something over the last hour. And maybe go call your student after this and ask them about some of these things. I'm sure they're still up studying real hard in the library right now. And like I said before, feel free to register for our upcoming webinars. The next one is on February 11th, and then there'll be one in March and one in April. And you can find all of that information on our Loyola Family Connection portal. Awesome. Well, have a great night, everyone, and we hope to see you on February 11th.